Hey all, Bree from the No Guilt Mom podcast, and I have got a gift for you this holiday season. If you love the No Guilt Mom podcast, and I mean love the No Guilt Mom podcast, then tell us about it. Leave us a review, and you can be entered to win a No Guilt Mom gift card. All you have to do is leave a review, take a screenshot, and then simply go to noguiltmom.com/review to enter our giveaway for a free No Guilt Mom gift card, simply for telling us what you think about the podcast. It is amazing. But don't delay. Get right on this, as we're going to be giving away that No Guilt Mom gift card on December 21st. So get right on over and visit noguiltmom.com/review.
Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I am your host, Joanne Crone, joined here by my amazing, fantastic, and wonderful co-host, Bree Tucker.
Well, hello, everybody. How are you? You always give me such positive vibes every time we start the podcast. I'm always like, oh.
I think we need to bring the positivity. Got to bring the positivity. That is something that I've noticed actually in my life that, I had a huge blowout with somebody recently, close to me. And I didn't realize how I was contributing to the situation too, because sometimes we think we need to hear positive comments a lot from other people. And we do need to hear positive comments a lot from other people. But I don't know about you, I get so focused on other people aren't appreciating me enough that I forget to appreciate others. And so I am trying very intentionally to appreciate everybody in my life very vocally.
I think that intention is a fantastic thing that really helps us kind of be more aware of those areas that we want to see more positives from. But thank you. I get all squirmy. You know that like words of affirmation is not my thing, so I get all uncomfortable and squirmy, but I like it. It's just squirmy for me.
It's a really hard thing to accept.
It is, right? It's really hard to accept people saying positive things about you sometimes.
And it's so funny because we think we want it. We go around saying like, oh, no one likes that I do this, and no one likes if I do that, and no one notices this.
I don't hear thank you, Mom. I don't hear, yeah.
But then when somebody actually shows gratitude, you're like, oh, that feels weird because we're not used, like
you hide.
We don't know how to accept it. We feel uncomfortable with it. And I think it's just because of how we've conditioned ourselves to believe that there's truth in the negative, but don't believe the positive.
True. So that is why we have this amazing podcast episode.
Yes.
Actually.
Yes. We are going to give you a quick practices actually that you can do to be more positive in your life and to practice positivity and get out of that negative loop.
Yeah, and just to get yourself in that mindset where you're able to, like you just said, like get out of the negative loop and be able to see things in a more positive light and have more of that intention. How the intention can help lead to that stuff.
And also why we're conditioned and we're primed for negativity.
Oh my goodness.
So there's a lot there. There's a lot there. We have a lot for you in this episode. And now on with the show. You want mom life to be easier. That's our goal too. Our mission is to raise more self-sufficient and independent kids, and we're going to have fun doing it. We're going to help you delegate and step back. Each episode will tackle strategies for positive discipline, making our kids more responsible and making our lives better in the process. Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. So we just finished up the Be Resilient Summit a few weeks ago. And one of our presenters, shout out to Erin Holland of PG-ish Parenting.
Whoop, whoop.
She had this great presentation about negativity and how we get into these negativity loops. And she brought up that we as humans are primed for negativity because it keeps us safe. Like our ancestors needed to look for all of the problems in the environment to make sure that they could be safe and work out ways around them and not be eaten by a saber-toothed tiger.
True. And that makes sense. Like, because we talked about this on a couple of episodes back about the whole fight or flight response and how we still have that, even though we don't need that in our day-to-day life.
No, we don't need it.
We don't need to be looking for the negative in our day-to-day life, is what I'm hearing.
But we have all of these neural pathways that are really, really set to fire immediately on negative things and true things. Even this conversation I was having with my daughter the other day, she was being really, really hard on herself. And I was pointing out the hard things she was saying, and she countered with, but Mom, they're true. I'm like, but they're not. They're not the whole story. We can look to see the truth in things, but if we become so bogged down in what we need to improve, then we lose all the energy and hope of improving because we won't take action.
Yeah, because it becomes overwhelming, and it also then becomes personal. It's about a core part of you, which isn't as easy to fix when you believe in yourself, like when you believe in the core that you are negative and that you have negative aspects that are the bigger part of your personality.
So I'm obsessed with this book right now, The Gap and the Gain, and we should totally go after them and come on the podcast. Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan, we're coming for you.
We're coming for you.
Because it's an entrepreneurial book, but it is based on a concept that is so
helpful in other aspects of your life.
It's so helpful, and it honestly changed my entire outlook and made me realize exactly what I was doing in my thinking that was keeping me stuck.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. What is the difference between the gap and the gain?
So whenever I'm a high achieving person. Like I would classify myself as a high achiever. I'm always going after the things. I'm always like checking things off my list. I really judge myself based on how much I've gotten done and how much achievements I've had. I've done that from a very, very young age. And I think a lot of people listening can attest to that. I know a lot of our Balance VIP members would say they're high achievers.
I know it's interesting you say high achieving. I see that as highly competitive, but
it's a little bit like that.
But
it's more like we really define ourselves based on what we accomplish. The hard thing about being a high achiever is that you're constantly not good enough. And that's really a mindset to struggle with. Like you can look at all of these things that you've accomplished and you're like, yeah, but I didn't do this, this, and this. And so therefore I cannot be happy. Well, what the gap and the gain does is that it helps you think back towards the beginning. I'm just going to use an example of my own life because I can illustrate it. The book I wrote. Before I wrote a book, I didn't have a book. I hadn't written a book. I was at ground zero. Like there was nothing done. And then I wrote a book and it was great and it was fantastic, except it wasn't a bestseller and, it wasn't bought by a certain number of people and it could have reached more people. And that was the thinking that I went into. And I'm like, well, then that book's a failure. When it's not, because you get to your goal. And what I was doing is that I was measuring my goal on some imaginary ideal. And I was looking at that space between that imaginary ideal and what I actually did accomplish. And I came up short because ideals, they're not meant to be reached. They're ideals.
They're ideal. Yeah. They're not realistic.
They're never going to happen.
They exist in the hypothetical conversations, in the hypothetical world.
Exactly. And they exist also when you compare yourself to other people and they're like, well, this person did this, this, and this, so therefore I'm not good enough either. And it's looking at that gap between what you accomplished and what other people have accomplished or that ideal. Instead, measure backwards. Look at the gain. Look at that space between having nothing, having created nothing, having nobody read your message to what you've actually have done. And you'll find, oh my gosh, I did this thing. This is really cool. And it helped this person over here and it helped this person over here. And all of a sudden, like your whole energy shifts because you're looking at the gain instead of the gap. And I realized that I was doing that a lot, looking at that gap. And that is why my mood was just tanking. Like every situation that came up was extremely stressful to me because it was how I wasn't measuring up to my imagined ideal.
So it's that thing where you are measuring yourself up to something that's imaginary and it's not there and you'll never be able to achieve it. So you'll never be good enough and you'll never be there. Yeah, that's a really hard, dark place to be.
But when you're in it, you think it's real. You think you're just being truthful with yourself and you just didn't hit like it this time, instead of looking at, oh my gosh, look at all of this amazing stuff I've done in between then. And so shifting that is so impactful, because after I read that book, I was talking to my daughter and I realized she was doing the exact same thing I was. She was measuring herself against some imaginary ideal. And I think that's how we teach kids to measure how they're doing. They're constantly compared to their classmates. They're compared to standards that they may not be able to reach, instead of being able to look back and see the progress they made. Progress isn't usually celebrated. Typically, high achievement is.
You're right. No, you are right. That is the society that we live in. It's all about whether or not, like, if you're going to talk about it in grades wise, all about whether or not you have the 4.0, whether or not you've made partner at the firm, whether or not you have the highest degree, all those things. General society, like, we don't celebrate.
It is. And it's so funny because I wanted to bring up my Instagram hater today that I told you about this morning.
Yes, let's share.
So there's a reel I put out there quite a little bit back, and a comment I received this morning, and I'm sorry, I'm going to use the language he uses here. My dad slapped my ass hard, put me in my room, and told me to be quiet. He was once young too, so he does know how it is. I turned out to be an awesome airline pilot and well behaved. So I did the same to my son. He is now a lead computer coder for a large company. It's pretty simple to parent. So that is judging things based on that one definition of achievement. Like, what does it mean to achieve? And we're not looking at the progress people make with that. And like,
and you're also not even touching on the inner happiness of that person.
No.
I mean, you could be really high achieving and be extremely lonely, miserable, depressed, and anxious all the time.
Hey, Aubrey here, and I wanted to share one of my favorite gifts to give during the holiday season, a Storyworth book. It is the most amazing gift ever. Storyworth is an online service that lets you create a special and unique gift of someone's story. I've given Storyworth books to both of my parents, and it has been their favorite gift, hands down. And did I mention it is so easy? Storyworth emailed my parents questions every week that I handpicked from their massive list of questions that they have. All my parents had to do was open their email and answer them. That easy. I asked my dad questions like, did you have any rules that you set for yourself as a parent, which you immediately broke? And he did. I even asked both of my parents, are you more like your mom or your dad? And they shared a lot of really amazing qualities that I didn't know about my grandparents at the time. Then at the end of the year, Storyworth compiles all of their answers, puts them into this gorgeous book that covers everything. My parents love showing us their books, and I personally love getting a chance to read them. With Storyworth, I am giving those I love a thoughtful and personal gift from the heart that preserves their memories and stories for years to come. Go to storyworth.com/NGM and save $10 on your first purchase. That's storyworth.com/NGM to save $10 on your first purchase.
We're hitting that time of year where my brain gets so overloaded in December that I look for anything to make life easier. And I have to say, Brie, that Green Chef is one of those services.
Yes, Green Chef is there to take away the dreaded, oh my goodness, what are we going to eat for dinner tonight? You can eat clean all holiday long with over 80 weekly meal options each week, featuring things like quick and easy, protein-packed, calorie-smart, or my personal favorite, the keto options.
And you don't have to lose track of healthy eating habits during the holidays, because every Green Chef customer gets a free session with one of their registered dietitians who can walk you through how to make clean eating work for you, which is very cool.
And I have to say that I have been loving their recipes lately. They put things together I have never thought of. This week, we're trying the lemon basil caper pork with sauteed cauliflower, bell peppers, almonds, and feta cheese, my favorite. Their recipes make it so easy to support my wellness goals without skipping on flavor.
For Green Chef's best deal of the year, get $250 off with code NGM250 at greenchef.com/NGM250. That's greenchef.com/NGM250. And don't forget to use that code NGM250 to get $250 off.
Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for eating well.
Yep.
That's not a life that I don't think any of us strive for.
It's not.
It's not what we're striving for, people.
And something else they mention in the book, The Gap and the Gain, is how happiness is an impossible pursuit. They specifically pull out In Pursuit of Happiness, what we have here in the U.S., pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they're like, that pursuit of happiness is what's making people unhappy because they're looking at happiness as this destination to be achieved. It's like, once I get this, I will be happy. Once I get this, I will be happy.
Well, and happiness isn't, I mean, let's be honest, it's not a 24/7 thing. Like, we have a plethora of human emotions for a reason because we feel all of those. To be able to think that you're going to be happy every day and grateful every moment of every day is, again, that ideal that is just not achievable.
It's not achievable. It's an ideal.
But you can always if you're, okay, this might sound bad, then maybe I'm going against this. You can always try to, like, when you realize you're in that negative point, to move to the positive. Right?
And I think so. I think that gets a bad rap.
Strive for more?
Yeah.
But then I feel like now I'm talking about achieving.
No,
and now
it's
I'm all
not.
like, you're not good enough. You got to strive for more.
Well, it's funny because that is something they mentioned. They're like, you can't be in the gain all the time because that's going for an ideal.
Right.
So you just try to be in the gain as much as possible. And the more you can catch yourself that you're striving for some impossible ideal versus appreciating, for instance, what you have, you're going to be better off so that there is no pursuit of happiness. Happiness is already within you. And these practices we're going to talk about, it's going to bring that happiness that's already there out.
Okay. I'm going to say this. Like, I already know we're going to do in this episode. I believe in this episode, but that, like, feels a little woo. Happiness is within you.
It is a little woo.
But it is. But it is within you. It really is. Like, nobody else can bring you. Let me say
it a different way. There is nothing that you can get right now or work towards that's going to make you happy if you're not already happy in the moment. Like, no external force is going to make you happy. It is all in you.
I believe that. Yes.
And there are always things that happen outside of our lives, and those things, like, suck and they deserve venting. Like, we're not saying, like, no negativity at all. I mean, we have things,
to let the negative out. It'll eat you up.
It will. We have stuff happen, like, in the business, in our lives, and I'm like, Brie, I need to vent about this. And we vent about it for like 5 minutes. But I think something that we do well is we vent about it and then we move on. We're like, what can we gain? Okay, move on. Right. And sometimes it's also just a matter of, like, I refuse to give this person, this situation, any more of my energy, any more of it. It's sucking it out too much right now. Yeah. So let's talk about toxic positivity, because toxic positivity is really, like, never acknowledging the negative things that happen. It's saying, oh, it's all going to be sunshine and rainbows all the time. That's not what this is. This is acknowledging negativity and acknowledging that bad stuff happens and even venting it out. But it's not dwelling in it. It's always looking for, okay, this happened, and it's not that bad stuff happened for a reason. I want you to banish that thinking. It's more like, this situation happened. What can I take from it for the future? What can I take from it? Is there anything that will benefit me down the road after having experienced this? And looking for that.
Yeah. Trying to reflect and see what you can learn.
Yes.
For sure. Okay, so let's talk about this. Let's start talking about what are things that we can do to help get our kids out of this negative mindset and get ourselves out of our negative mindset. What are things that we can do?
So these are things I've started doing in my life that's made a huge, huge difference. And it's stuff that really hasn't clicked with me before, that I've, like, really kind of actively refused until I learned about the gap and the gain concept.
Okay.
But the first one is this what my brain needs to hear practice. And I do this in the morning, and it's in a journal. And I pay attention to what my inner thoughts are telling me. And usually my inner thoughts are telling me something about imposter, like, I don't know what I'm talking about. Why do people want to listen to me? I need to go get an advanced medical degree and go to Harvard.
I know a lot of people that have advanced medical degrees that doesn't mean they're doing a great job in parenting and or happiness.
But it's like all of these things I hear myself saying. And then I'm like, what do I need to hear? If I was talking to you, or if I was talking to another friend, what would they tell me that I need to hear? And I try to switch that in my body. So if I'm saying nobody wants to hear what I'm saying, I'm just bossy and I always tell people what to do. If that's the thought I'm telling myself, I will switch it and I'll be like, people value what you have to say. I want to contribute to the conversation. And then the extra thing, though, is I will try to feel it in my body. So not just say it. When I say it, I'm like, people value what I have to say. And I will say it again, people value what I have to say. And I can feel my body relax. I can feel like this stress kind of unwind. And I look for that feeling when I say it.
Okay, so you said you do this with a journal.
Mm-hmm.
Do you write down the negative thoughts too?
I don't write down the negative thoughts.
So you say them or you think them?
I think them.
You think them and then you reflect upon how you need to shift.
How I need to shift it. Now, some
what
people
you need to hear.
write it down though, and that's totally fine. It's just not something I do because I'm a ruminator and I'm a dweller, and I could
And
totally
if it's written down, you'll stare at that.
No, well, not stare at it, but I will keep writing and go farther down and get myself more mad and more amped up. And it's just how I am personally.
Go down that shame spiral.
Go down the shame spiral. And it's usually the same thing over and over again. I've been through lots of therapy, guys. I get sick of the same things I bring up over and over and over again that I don't want to write them down anymore. Mm-hmm. I know what they are. And now I'm just trying to do the work to rewire my brain for them.
Do you ever put the affirmations somewhere around for you to look at later in the day?
I don't, but I write them in my journal. So if I'm like feeling overwhelmed, I will go back and look at what I wrote that day, and I'll repeat it.
All right. Do you ever look at it again at the end of the day?
Yes.
And then what do you do at the end of the day when you're reflecting back on what you wrote that morning?
I write a few things in my journal. So I don't really usually reflect on the affirmations that I write. I'll glance at them and I'll be like, yes, okay. But I go into another practice, which is my wins for the day.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about the wins for the day.
So the wins for the day is basically it's a gratitude practice. It's looking at your day and it's trying to find those places where you were successful and you did have a win. And what this helps with is it is a rewiring of your brain, because the more your brain has practiced doing something, the easier it's going to have finding the good in everyday situations. So if you're constantly reflecting on your day and you're like, okay, well, this was good, this is good, this is good. The next day, your brain is going to start looking for more of those wins and good things, and you're going to find your happiness improve. And I can attest to this. Like a lot of people can attest to it. I can personally attest to it too, that I am starting to see the good in a lot more stuff and have a much
more
less
feeling.
More positive, but I don't have as big of a reactive instinct or a negative reaction. Like there was something that happened this morning. Typically I would have looked at that and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so stupid. Why didn't I think of that before? And this morning I'm like, haha.
That makes sense now.
That makes sense. Like everything and I was like, okay, this is something that we just put on our list of things we have to keep in mind for next time.
Yep.
And I totally think it's because I've been working on my wins that wasn't so reactive.
Yeah.
This message is sponsored by Greenlight. It is so hard to raise kids who know how to manage money. Bree, right now, my kids are all about earning money for presents. My daughter wants to get presents for all of her friends, and my son is doing a Secret Santa with his friends.
Oh, I hear you. And if you're looking to raise kids that are financially responsible, we have got a lifesaver recommendation for you that you need to check out. It is Greenlight. Greenlight is a debit card and money app made for families that gives kids and teens an easy and fun way to gain financial literacy, all while giving parents peace of mind.
You can send instant money transfers, automate allowance, and even keep an eye on kids' spending with real-time notifications. Meanwhile, your kids can begin their journey towards financial autonomy by learning how to save, invest, and spend wisely.
So sign up for Greenlight today and get your first month free when you go to greenlight.com/NGM.
That's greenlight.com/NGM to try Greenlight for free. Greenlight.com/NGM.
My son is playing a game right now on his computer where he's a thief and the cops are after him. So I'm so excited about this new app, Give As We Grow, where instead of being the quote unquote bad guys, kids are practicing giving back.
That is so cool, Joanne. I really wish that there was something like this when my kids were younger that got them excited about giving back to others and helped them build a better understanding of what it really means to volunteer.
Give As We Grow is the first of its kind free educational mobile app for children ages 8 to 11 that teaches kids via fun, service-focused minigame quests to tap into their unique talents and interests to help others.
And did you know that studies show that there is a biological connection between generosity and happiness, and that volunteering improves people's physical and mental health? I mean, kids who volunteer typically do better in school and are less likely to engage in risky behaviors. And that is something that I think we all want for our kids.
Ready to spark a new movement in generosity? Find and download Give As We Grow for free in the App Store for Android and iOS. And for resources for the whole family, visit giveaswegrow.org.
No, and I think that that's really great. Like doing the gratitude, so talking about therapy, like that's something that comes up a lot when I have been in personal therapy too, talking about being grateful for things. And one thing that has helped me, and I granted, when I get really stressed out, I'm not as good about doing it, which is sad because that's the time you need it more, but is doing, so similar to that, I do verbal gratitudes with Miguel every night. We do, what we're grateful for in the day. We try to do 3. I think he actually does his during the day too. So I think he does it twice a day, but I'm not.
He's
I'm not
extra gratitude-y.
I am not that level yet. He's my mindful guru. I'm not there yet. But at the end of the day, like we're just like, what are things that we're grateful for? And I like it because one, it's a really great thing to do before bed for me because it helps me release all the things that I'm nervous and anxious about. Because I can be like, okay, these are things that happened that were good. And a lot of times it's something simple like, a gratitude would be like, I'm grateful that we all got to sit and eat dinner together and that both of my kids were laughing during dinner time. That was amazing because with teens, you don't always get that.
No.
So that was
It's
fantastic.
a crapshoot.
And then sometimes also the other affirmation or the other gratitude is just like, and I'm grateful for right now that I get to be in bed and everybody's here. They're all home safe. And I'm laying next to my husband and I've got my dog snuggling up next to me. Like I'm grateful for all of this. So it's good because not only does it give you the warm fuzzies and the ability to look and see even the crappiest day has something to be grateful for.
Yeah.
It might even just be, I'm grateful I didn't get a full-blown migraine today. I don't, whatever it is. But the other reason I like doing it with my partner is because sometimes he'll say something that he's grateful for that I didn't even realize happened or that I didn't see. And I'm like, oh gosh, you're right. So I like being able to hear that. And the other thing too that I think is really great about doing it with your partner is that you'll get to hear things that they're grateful for that you might not have realized. Like for you, it's not necessarily something that you would have been grateful for, but to them, it was a big deal.
Oh, I feel like what you're saying is like it's helping you have a more positive connection with your partner as well.
It is. It helps me have a more positive connection with my partner. It helps me have a better mindset, a better attitude. I'm feeling better about things.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm definitely like the doomsday person that's always thinking about how everything is going to go to hell in a handbasket and how I have to try to fix everything before it all goes to hell in a handbasket. And so,
That's a lot of stress to put on yourself.
Oh, it is. And like, don't a lot of people have that thing where like at night, because I've seen so many memes about it, like, I'm going to go to sleep now. And then your mind flips on the light and it's like, hey, let's think about 16 other things so that you can't sleep.
Yeah.
So like, it helps with that relaxing, but I also think it also just helps you look at what's happened that day and be able to see that, okay, it wasn't a complete crap day. There were some positive things that happened, which is very helpful when you're dealing with depression or anxiety or just any situation, but especially with those diagnoses.
It's extremely helpful. And I've experienced the same thing that you have where you just go to bed feeling like, oh, okay, this is good.
Yeah.
And you look forward to the next day. Like I've started to look forward to the next day because I've started another practice in addition to the wins before bed. I forecast my wins for the next day. So it's not a to-do list. I don't say a to-do list, but it's kind of defining what does success look like tomorrow.
Okay. So what would be an example of something? Can you share like what you did last night?
What did I do last night?
I'm putting you on the spot, but I think that this is a really good idea and I want to start using it. So I want to hear concrete examples.
I think, okay, so I'm leaving on a trip tomorrow.
Okay.
And I think I defined success today as packing and getting ready for that trip, doing my workout. And then I think it's the balance coaching call, being there for the balance coaching call today as well. And that's my wins for the day. What happens at the end of the day is I then look at those wins and I check them off. I'm like, yeah, I did that. But they then seem so little
compared to my actual wins of the day. I always find my wins of the day have surprised me. They're so much bigger than what I forecasted for the next day, which is great because then I'm like, whoa, my day was so much better than I thought it would be.
I was going to say, then it's like twice. It's twice the gratitude. It's that I managed to check off the things that I was already looking for. Plus I got all these other things that were awesome that happened. It doesn't necessarily mean that you did them. It just means awesome things that happened.
And something that I'm looking forward to is they say will happen, because this is also a practice from the book. I'm telling you, Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan, we're coming for you. We're coming. Is they say that your wins start getting bigger and bigger and bigger the more you do it, because your brain doesn't like monotony. And it won't let you predict the same things each day. It'll constantly like look for the novel and look for the new.
Interesting.
And so you're supposed to like get greater and greater at.
And how long have you been doing this one?
About
this mindset, these practices.
2 weeks now.
Okay.
So that's already noticed a difference.
I was going to say, that's a pretty good turnaround. And so like everything that we're saying are things that you could do with your kids, no matter what their age is. I always love seeing the videos on social media of the dad with the kid in the back seat, and they like, what's our affirmations for the day? And they're like, I'm smart, I'm big, I'm going to do good, just all these things. So those are all things that you can do, that the things that your brain needs to hear, you can do those guided with your kids and let yourself take it in too. Don't just focus on doing it for your kids.
I would say like with my kids, because they're tough cookies. My kids, like
I think so many of us have tough cookie kids. Why can't I have the soft baked batch kids?
And you would think us doing this parenting education, you might look from the outside, oh, Brie and Joanne, their kids must be all together. And no, what happens is that our kids see us doing this and they immediately like think it's some kind of like psychology concept that we're working on them, and they'll call us out on it.
Okay, I think that almost anybody that works in the field of psychology, sociology, or anything like that, therapy, tell us that, like, leave a review, tell us in the comments, I don't know, but share with us that your kids are like, you're doing some of that mumbo jumbo with me.
You're doing it.
They know what they're not saying that they don't believe it. They're just like,
And it does get through sometimes, but I got so tired. I was like, I'm not getting through. The more I talk, I don't get through. And so what I've found instead is doing my own practice, and these wins is that they're coming in and they're seeing it now. And like, I forgot to do my wins the other morning, and my son came in. I'm like, okay, I just need to write down my wins right now. And I like talked through myself doing it. And he was right there listening. And I have no doubt that he saw me doing it, and someday it is going to sink in and he will start doing it himself, or we can have a conversation about that down the road.
And that's what I love about this kind of stuff. And we talk about it too in Common Happy Parenting and also in our Balance Coaching program, that it's about you making that change first, you having that positive communication style, positive mindset. Your kids will come around to it.
They do.
They do. And not even just the kids, your partner, like your family will come around to it when they see that it's rendering positive results.
And oh my gosh, you're going to see some amazing changes when you start doing stuff like this. My son and daughter, we have a trampoline in the back, and my son really wants to do a forward flip on the trampoline. My daughter knows how to do it. And so they were outside working together on it. And I like to leave them when they're together because I'm like,
oh my gosh,
sibling happiness, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, bonding. Keep happening, please.
Keep happening. Yeah, I'm not going to mention anything because as soon as I mention it, it's not going to happen anymore. But I was making dinner and they were in the couch, and my daughter was taking my son through a goal setting process. She was like, so what do you want to do? And he's like, I just want to, I want to flip. And she asked the question, well, how can you measure that to know you're successful? And I'm like, yes. We're like,
wow. And what did he say?
He's like,
I do it.
I guess go around and tuck my knees up higher. And I'm like, this is amazing. I'm just going to stay out of this and just like smile to myself in the kitchen, because the things that you do in your own life, your kids do see and they pick up. They pick up so well.
So that is our thing for today, like talking about like how you can do this more positivity, the quick practices. So what were they again? First one?
What my brain needs to hear practice. And it's just a little twist on affirmations.
Yeah. And then number 2 is going to be talking about your wins for the day. Having that gratitude time with your family, with your partner is super helpful.
And then forecasting your wins for the next day and deciding how you're going to measure success tomorrow. And we do this too in balance when we do time blocking. We try to forecast our win for the next week and then plan our time around making it happen.
Yeah, because that's important. You got to remember what your positives are. So
remember, the best mom is a happy mom. Take care of you, and we'll talk to you later.
thanks for stopping by.
Are you looking for something to listen to with your whole family? Then check out 6 Minutes, produced and created by Gen Z Media. With over 200 twisty, cliffhanger-filled episodes, 6 Minutes tells the story of 11-year-old Holiday, who is pulled from the icy waters with no memory of who she is or where she came from.
3 years ago, Brinley Pasternak helped the Anders family uncover the truth about Holiday's past. Now she'll need them to help her find the truth about hers. In 6 Minutes Out of Time, the long-awaited sequel, Cyrus Anders is found unconscious near the mysterious Elixir Academy in Florida, and Brinley learns the school may have a shocking connection to her missing mother.
Dive in now and get the most downloaded family audio adventure in history. Follow 6 Minutes wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen early and ad-free with the GZM family subscription.